finishing a very long semester, so I appreciate your appreciate your time and attention today. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. I might turn off my video sometimes during this. Since the hurricane, my internet has been a little spotty. Sadly, I don't live in an AT&T fiber neighborhood, so I don't have the fancy, really fast internet. I'm still stuck with Cox. So I don't mean to be antisocial, but I might have my video off for parts of this. So apologies ahead of time. I'm gonna start to share my screen. I'll pull up my presentation for you all. All right. So you all know that we'll be chatting about utilizing ArcGIS Story Maps for more impactful service learning. And Bridget gave me a great introduction, so I don't need to bother with that slide. But in terms of today and our agenda, kind of how this will go is I'll give a brief overview of what GIS is. I think it's important to have a working understanding for the context of this workshop. We'll chat about the Tulane ArcGIS Portal, as that was a recent acquisition by Campus IT. We now have a site-wide license to Esri's ArcGIS, and I'll show you how to access story maps from there. We'll chat about story maps and service learning. I'll sort of outline the functionality of story maps and its utility in a service learning course. I'll also show you a few examples of story maps and how they have been used, including discussing how they've been used this semester. We will do a hands-on activity and we'll work together to create a story map, and then we will have some time for questions at the end. So we'll jump right in with what is GIS? And many of you might know GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. A geographic information system is a system designed to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and present all types of geographical data. The key word here really is geography, which means that some portion of the data is spatial or in some way reference to locations on the Earth. Essentially, as simply put as can be, it's a map with data behind it. It does come in a variety of hardware and software. We'll be using Esri's ArcGIS platform today, but there are a variety of open source software applications as well. You might have heard of GRASS GIS or QGIS. Those are two other very popular platforms. So when we think about GIS, I think one of the most important things to know is what can be done. GIS can be intimidating because it requires you to learn a new skill or tool, and like thinking about that can be pretty daunting. But GIS can be used in both problem solving and decision-making processes, as well as for visualizing of data in a spatial environment. They typically can answer like I like to say 6 types of questions. It makes it easier to sort of wrap your head around, but so can be used to analyze and determine the location of features and relationships to other features, where the most and or least of something is. You can think about this like in terms of like food deserts. So if you think about grocery store options in relation to say income, the density of things in a given space. So if you think about crime, this could be a density of like police use of force incidents in a neighborhood. It's also helpful in determining what's happening inside of an area of interest or what's happening nearby in terms of like a phenomenon potentially. And then also one of the most interesting, I think, is how a specific area has changed over time and in what way. All right, so I mentioned earlier that Tulane recently acquired a campus-wide or site-wide license for the Esri ArcGIS platform. It is and has been the industry standard for many years. So this is a really big deal for Tulane. A lot of other universities do have it, so it I wouldn't say a lot of other fortunate universities have it. So it's great that we're able to sort of jump on board with that. And I'm gonna pop this up. The website is there on the slide, so if you wanted to navigate to it along with me, I'm gonna pull it up and I might have to change my screen share. Can you still see the tab or do I need to, you can see, okay. Sometimes I'm like still like, I know we've all been doing this Zoom thing for an entire semester, but sometimes like they're like, I can still see your screen or I can't. So it's just easier if you tell me. All right, so here's the portal. And I should, oh, I'm not signed in anymore. You log into the portal with your Tulane credentials. So I'm gonna sign in. And then I did tell you I was going to put this in the chat, so I should probably make good on my promises. Let me. Just in case anybody needs that. Okay. All right. So this is what the portal looks like. To access all of the apps, because this is quite a big suite of products. So this little 4 square icon is where it will sort of expand that menu. And you'll see that we have access to quite a few different tools within this suite. Everybody, if you don't see story maps here at the bottom, let me know. From my understanding, and of course, anytime a university gets a site-wide license, there's a lot of configuration that goes on with this in terms of access and that. I did chat with IT early on in this process because I didn't have access to story maps, and this is like a free tool, so everybody should have access to this, and I was having trouble. So from my understanding, IT gave everybody access to story maps. So if you don't see it, let me know. IT should be able to give you access to this. So story maps is there at the bottom. I'm not going to jump into story maps quite yet, but I sort of want to outline this navigation of the portal for you all so it can become a little bit more familiar. Content, once you start building content, you'll be able to sort of keep it all in one place here. So if you created any content, whether it's a story map or a regular map or any other projects you have, will kind of all be under the content button. The gallery will display other sort of projects. So any other maps created by fellow colleagues at Tulane will be in here that they've made public. And then mapping will take you into the ArcGIS online tool, so you can start to create maps if you'd like. So those are some key functions of the portal. I'm going to go back to my presentation. I don't want to get too into the woods about the portal, but I just want you to know that it exists because it is a new thing. So share that information amongst colleagues and friends. All right. Minimize this. Cool. All right, so now that you have a sort of working understanding of what GIS is, you know how to access the portal. We can kind of start chatting about story maps and what that is. So a story map essentially is a web-based map that's been thoughtfully created, right? We hope, given context, and it provides supporting information. So it becomes really like a standalone resource. It combines interactive maps with multimedia content and text to tell stories about the world, which I think is particularly important in the service learning setting. Extremely positive point, and when we think about learning a new tool, especially something this robust, is there's no GIS or coding experience required to sort of jump in to story maps. And I think that that's one of the reasons why it really is exploding in the classroom setting. And it's cloud-based, so it's really accessible. And overall, it's a really great tool. And it's open source and it's incredibly powerful. And we'll see some examples here shortly. So why are story maps so important or beneficial to service learning? I think they're a natural pair as they increase the impact of the experience for students, faculty, and community partners alike. They emphasize mutuality and collaboration, which is a huge part of service learning, and they're easily shareable. And I think they can really help preserve and extend the benefits of a relationship with your service learning partners. It gives them a tool that they can use in their communities that are interactive, engaging, and accessible. It allows students to learn new digital and data literacy skills, right, with that minimum learning curve, because there's no previous experience really needed in terms of coding or GIS experience. And it enhances that critical reflection sort of piece of service learning. And it also, I think, in terms of like, from the faculty standpoint, it's a relatively low stake, high reward option to like re-envisioning or revamping like a traditional research paper or assignment. Yeah, so I think it just really is a really good fit for service learning. And not just service learning, obviously. I know that the focus of this talk is sort of to speak to it in a service learning frame, but I think just across the board, especially thinking about giving students new like data and digital skills, which are extremely important. So I do want to show you a few examples now that we've spent some time talking about how great they are, right? Like you should probably see these things. These should link out pretty easily. So the first one here is a story map on sexuality, education, legislation, and policy. In this example, story maps is used as a public health information tool to visualize state-by-state comparison of health indicators. And I'll sort of scroll through. There's a quick scroll, sorry. So you'll see that it combines text here. And then you can link out to other things along with media. So here's a YouTube video here that's been embedded. And then you can display them in different ways. And then there's a map here. And there's, you can scroll through it, or you can click through and jump to different sections here. So really pretty. I mean, if anything, it's very visually pleasing and powerful in that way. Here's another example. This one is about ending environmental racism. So in this example, story maps is used as a political awareness an activism platform to detail a new bill that would help clean up legacy pollution, which we know disproportionately harms Black and Indigenous and Latinx communities. So again, it's combining text with the data visualizations, mapping here from the census. All right, and I have one more example. This one is the Voices of the Grand Canyon. So in this example, Story Maps is used as an oral history platform to preserve and share the lived experiences of Indigenous people from the Grand Canyon region. So there's a lot of maps and audio embedded into this, which is really great. And the images that were chosen are really powerful. And you just scroll through and it tells such a great story. And a lot of Story Maps impact is when it is used in community-based practices. And it's just a really great tool to be able to share information in a meaningful way. And you'll see here in a second, once we jump into the hands-on activity, how easy it is. I know this looks like, oh gosh, I could never do this. This looks like something that the New York Times does, but it is something that you can easily do. This semester, Dr. Laura Kelly used Story Maps in her Irish New Orleans course to examine, record, and photograph the various tombstones in the St. Patrick cemeteries. Their partner this semester was the Save Our Cemeteries in the New Orleans Catholic cemeteries. She also used it in her Indian Tribes on the Bayou course. So students created a story map, which will be placed on the, and I'm probably not going to say this right, the Point Shen Indian Tribes website. And it's also going to be used by the Department of Education as a tool to sort of disseminate knowledge about aspects of Louisiana history and culture. So it is something that and she emailed me in the beginning of the semester and was like, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump right in. I want to use Story Maps this semester. And she did. So it is something that you can do with relatively little spin up. So, all right. So we're going to jump into the hands-on activity. So what we'll do is we're going to actually create this story map, which just sort of it outlines neighborhoods and places of interest in San Diego. So we'll use some existing web maps of the city and images provided by Esri, which is the owner of Story Maps. This is a workshop and tutorial that was created by them. And they're really great. So another point to sort of share is that Esri has great support and a lot of learning tools. There's a lot of learning communities. So there's a lot of support. So there's no reason to feel alone if you want to sort of try this in the classroom. There's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of videos, and just a lot of educational support to help you utilize this tool. So this is the story map we'll be creating together. And you'll see that it's really great. Again, it combines the text with the photos, mapping. So we'll jump into this. And I'm gonna exit out of here. You can get to, I'm gonna change my share. And you can get to Story Maps a few different ways. You can get to Story Maps through the portal, the Tulane portal, the ArcGIS portal that I showed you. And you can also, I'll start sharing my screen again. Here. tab. All right. Okay. You can do it right from the website. And I'm going to punch this into the chat as well, just so I always like to show, like, I don't know, maybe it's the librarian in me, the multiple ways you can access something. Sometimes one resonates more than another. And again, you can always do the two-lane, oh, there we are. And you can also access it through here too. So whichever one you want to do, you can get to it either way. So here we are. If you want to follow along, if you learn better by doing, you can absolutely do that. If you just want to watch me do it and you learn better that way, that's fine. You do have the complete walkthrough of this. And that was what was shared with you in that box folder. Again, this is something that was created directly from Esri, so I want to give them credit for this great tutorial and providing us with these opportunities. So I'm going to try to go as slow as possible and also try to be mindful of everybody's time. If you have a question, put it in the chat and I will definitely do my best to monitor that, or you can like unmute yourself if you feel comfortable with that. I'll also try to repeat things. I know it's kind of hard to listen to somebody to kind of instruct you through something and also do it at the same time. So let's all be kind to ourselves. We have plenty of time to get through this. So I'm gonna get started. So as long as we're all here on this page, I'll ask you to just do a little scroll. And we're gonna click here on the Get Started, Create Story. All right. So it'll take you to this screen, which will ask you to select the type of story that you want to build. And we're gonna, for the purpose of this tutorial, we're gonna do a map journal. You'll see that there are other options. They all kind of give you a little bit different of an experience. So I encourage you to sort of look at those on your own time. So click on Map Journal. And it's gonna ask you what layout you would like. So you can pick a side panel layout or the floating panel. Again, they're both just a little bit different. We're gonna go with the side panel view for this. And then it will pop up here. Okay, I'm gonna just do a little check-in. Is everybody here and feeling comfortable where we're at right now? Just a thumbs up or a nod. Okay, cool. Perfect. Again, like I said, I might do sort of an overabundance of check-ins, but I don't want to leave anybody behind. So try not to be annoyed with me. Okay, so what we're going to do, first thing that we want to do is title our story map, and we're going to just call it welcome to, whoops, it'd help if I could spell right, to San Diego. And I already have a map titled this, so I'm just going to put a number 2 after it. You won't need to do that. And we'll just hit the blue arrow, which will take us to the next step. All right, so map journals contain different sections. You could see that as we were scrolling through some of those examples, it seemed to kind of pop up in sections. The home section is the first section. your users will see when they open up the map. It's sort of that introductory space. So the first thing you'll typically do for the main stage of your home screen is add an image. The main stage panel is the larger display area to the right of the side panel. It can display a map, an image, video, or web content, whatever you'd like. And that's one of the nice things about this, is that you can include a lot of different types of content and media. For your story map, you want the home screen to display a photo that will appeal to your readers and encourage them to read your story, right? It's about capturing them, pulling them in, and making it as appealing as possible. You can drag images directly into your map journal builder from your computer, or you can access images that are hosted on the web. So like you'll see in a moment, like a Flickr folder. Images that you upload from your computer are automatically stored in your map journal story. So for this, we're going to start with an image. So we're going to set our main stage content as an image. And because this is a tutorial, we're going to use a Flickr account that is hosted by Esri for the purpose of story map demos. So we're going to select Flickr. And then what you're going to want to type in here is Esri Story Maps Demo. And you'll hit load albums. And you'll see that this folder titled Welcome to San Diego pops up. Go ahead and click on that. It'll open up a folder. I think it's got about 33 images on it. And what I want you to do is select just that first one. It's got a nice view of the San Diego Bay. It'll be a nice image for the main stage content. It'll give you a couple options in terms of the position. So that looks, I'm just going to minimize my screen because there's a zoom toolbar at the bottom kind of covering up that next button for me. So I apologize. Hopefully you can still see that. So I think it's fine that it's going to fill the image to the page. So I'm going to hit next. And now what it wants is to have you put that narrative in there, right? So they'll see that nice, beautiful image, but we should probably include some narrative to that so our audience knows what this photo is and why it's important. The workshop notes that you were sent has like some bulk text in it that you can copy and paste. I'm gonna put it in the chat as well if you don't have that up and accessible. So give me a second, I'm gonna scroll to that in the notes that I have up. Grab those. All right, I'm gonna pop it in the chat. And then I'm also back to this and I'll pop it in here as well. Okay, and you can see like it kind of, it's a little bit blocky. So if you wanted to, you could add like an additional space and like break up that text a little bit so it might look a little bit better. So when you're satisfied with how it looks, click add, and then voila, all of a sudden you've already got the sort of start of this really beautiful story map. You've got the photo on the right there is your main stage content, and then you've got some narrative alongside it. So I'm gonna go up to the top and hit save. Something to keep in mind as you sort of move along and move through to continue to save just like you would if you were working on anything else. I'm gonna check in again with everybody. Is everybody at the same spot and feeling okay? Good. Okay, I'm gonna scroll over to the other folks. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. All right, so now what we want to do, oh, I see a chat, hold on. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So the role of Tulane and the ArcGIS site. I showed you, Story Maps is one of the free things that is contained within the ArcGIS suite. Most of the other products that Esri has that are GIS related are not. So I wanted to just show you the ArcGIS portal just so you knew what other things are available now that we have this site-wide license to that suite of products. And I wanted to show you a couple of different access points. So you can access Story Maps through the portal, or you can also access it through just the cloud-based website. So whatever you'd like to do, but the role of the ArcGIS site is the fact that we now have this really robust site-wide license that gives us access to not only Story Maps, but a slew of other things. So I did want to raise awareness to the fact that we now have access to things like ArcPro and ArcGIS Online in terms of that cloud-based mapping program as well. So that's a good question, Vicki, thank you. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll go down here and we're going to add a section. All right, and we want to title this section, and we'll title it San Diego, the second largest city in California. What we want to do now is we're going to add a map. So we'll want to make sure, so it gives you multiple options in terms of what sort of content you want to add in this moment. We're going to do map. We learned how to add a photo already, so we're going to practice adding a map. It gives you two options. You could create a map or select a map. And because this is a tutorial and workshop, focused on creating story maps, we're going to do select a map. We're going to select ArcGIS Online because this is where our map is hosted. Another thing to point out about ArcGIS Online is there is a huge gallery of maps that have been created either by Esri, other academics and researchers, or the public. So it's always kind of fun and interesting to look through that. And you can type search terms in here just like you would like a library database or Google. So this works off of search terms. So you can search, and what we'll do is we'll search welcome. I think it's welcome to San Diego is what this map will come up. We're looking for the map created by Esri. So it'll pull up all the maps that are titled this. Because this is a tutorial, many people have done this. You'll see a bunch of maps come up here. So we'll see where the one created by Esri is. I'm going to scroll through a few. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. It's the author should be Story Maps. And for me, it was on page 4. I'm sure that will be the same for you. So it's this one here. Welcome to San Diego. And you'll see here at the bottom that the author is Story Maps. So that's the one we want. So now that that has loaded, we are going to, all right, so the map selected, and we're going to do, we're going to hit next. Just want to make sure that, oh, let me pop the chat open. Oh, great. Thanks, Ken. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go back one step. I'm sorry. We're going to go to custom configuration because we're going to want to add, because this map is like obviously not just San Diego. What we want to do is zoom in on a specific area of San Diego. You see like it spans up to LA and down to Mexico. So we want to zoom in because if you think about it, if a user opens the story map and this is what's displayed, they're not really sure what they're looking at in this moment. So it's important always to scale your map appropriately to whatever you're looking at. And we'll do that. It's very easy. So we're going to do a zoom. What's nice is it's always easy to move in and zoom the map. Obviously, the plus does a little bit of a zoom, and you can also grab the map and kind of move it as well. So what we really want to focus our map on is that area of sort of this like downtown San Diego area. And you can still have a little bit of the mountains up here and more Southern California at the bottom. So once you're happy with your map location, you can click on the blue button. And for me, this zoom toolbar is in my way, sorry. Oops, now I'm just zooming my map out, sorry, y'all. I'm gonna fix this again. I was doing two things at once. I was zooming my screen out and it also made everything real small. So give me a second to fix that. Pop this out a little bit more. I zoomed in too far. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for just a second. And readjust my my screen so this doesn't go completely off the rails. Sorry, y'all. I was trying to zoom my computer screen in and I end up just zooming the map to the wrong place. Okay. Wow, it zoomed all the way out. Okay, almost there. All right, and then of course hit that blue button that says save map location. I'm gonna put my screen back on in a second now that we should all be in the same spot now. All right. Sorry, I should have moved my Zoom toolbar that was down at the bottom and I didn't do that. Okay. So after you set your map location, it'll ask you again to add a little bit of text and I'll copy and paste the text into the chat for this next section, or you can grab it if you have your workshop box folder open as well. I'm just scrolling down in mine to grab that text. All right. I'll pop that in the chat if that's easier for you. Okay. We're back here. I'll do that as well. All right, and then we'll hit add. Okay. So now we've got the map of San Diego on our right with additional narrative to go along with it. And again, there's no limit here. This is obviously a short little narrative just for the sake of demonstrating how to add a map and then configure a map location. Okay, so we're going to Now insert another image to this narrative, right? So we've done main stage content, we've added narrative, we've configured a map. Anytime you hit this little pencil, it'll pull up the section that you're working in. And then it will allow you to continue to edit it. Oh, I see I have a question in the chat. Thanks, Miriam. Perfect. Yeah, and if any of y'all have to go, you have at this point like the workshop document, so you can do this on your own time too. And I'm always happy to, if you have a class that you want to use this in, I can pop into your class and do a workshop for you for your class specifically. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to insert an image into this narrative here. So we're going to click on this icon. And we're going to revisit our that same Flickr album. So it should already be populated. So just go ahead and hit load again. You'll see the folder there. Pop that up, and we're going to find another image to insert. Let's scroll down, and we're going to look for the one that's titled Sunset Cliffs. And there it is here. So we'll click that, and then you'll see that the image caption field is automatically populated with text from Flickr. You can edit or delete it, whichever one you want. But if it does have any sort of photographer credit, I would leave that. You know, it's good to give credit where credit is due. So if you are using an album that is not yours, or you didn't take pictures, those pictures, it's nice to keep that. So we'll just go ahead and click apply. All right, and then we're going to scroll down, and you'll see that the image is right there amongst the narrative, and then that image description follows the text. And then we're going to add, so below this, we'll do some more spacing. Oops, going too far. And then we're going to copy and paste some more text in, because you can add multiple narratives and multiple images within a section. And then I'm going to go grab the narrative for this next part, and I'll also copy it into the chat again, so y'all can have that too. So this is a big chunk of text. I'll go back and I'll pop that in here. All right, and now we'll click save. Okay, so now when you scroll, you'll see that it goes from the first initial main stage content with your narrative to the second section that we just created with our image of the sunset cliffs. And then with that next copy and paste of narrative. And we can, again, go back and edit that anytime you want by clicking on that pen. And you can space it out. You can change the different, if you wanted to change the font or anything like that, you could do that. So now we're going to add a third section. So you'll see that throughout the tutorial, we kind of go back and forth. We repeat steps, but every time we repeat a step, we add a new facet, right? So this time we're going to add another section, which we've already done. And we're going to type downtown San Diego. Whoops, I should probably capitalize that, right? All right, and for location, we're going to click on custom configuration again. So we've already practiced the last two things that we just did, right? We already know how to create a section, we know how to title a section, and we also know how to create a custom configuration. So we're still going to have, it's still pulling from that original map that we uploaded, and now we're going to change the map location again so that when we scroll through the story map, it goes from this sort of wider view of San Diego, and we're going to zoom in to downtown San Diego. So keep the map centered on the label for San Diego and zoom to the downtown area. So the airport will be at the top left and Balboa Park will be at the top right. So let's do a zoom. Okay, and we see I'm going to scroll down here. Okay. Pan over a little bit. Okay, so here's, whoops. So here's Balboa Park. There, the airport's there. All right, so this looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna go back to that. Okay, this looks good to me. I'm gonna save the map location. So now, like I said, when we scroll through, it will zoom in on that. Oh, I have a chat. Yeah, so every map that you've created, now we're working with an existing map, and maps are also easy to create. You can create maps within Story Maps, or you can create maps through Arc Online. So that's something to also keep in mind, but you can change the map location and change the sort of zoom or view of whatever map that you're looking at. Okay. Okay, so we scaled it to downtown with our custom configuration. In the map content window, okay, let's scroll down and I'm gonna hit next. And now we're gonna add some more text. So now when we're scrolling through, the map's gonna change scale to zoom in on downtown San Diego. And now we're gonna add some more text. So I'm gonna go back to the workshop document. I'm gonna grab that text. Now, again, I'll paste it into the chat just to be have multiple options. I'm scrolling through my own document here to catch myself back up. Oops. All right. Oh, there's another chat, sorry. Can you insert data points in this map? Yeah, so we'll talk about points in a moment. There are ways that you can zoom in. If you're creating your own map and then you're pulling it into Story Maps, you can do some of that work there, but you also can add points to an existing map. So we're definitely getting there. Oh, another chat, sorry. Can you insert data? Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Sorry, it's a lot to manage, and when like you're not in person, like sometimes obviously I can't see you right now because I'm looking at a document on my screen. I'm also working on one screen, which makes the toggling even worse. I know you all have experienced your own struggles in Zoom teaching and the like. Okay, so I'm finally grabbing that text that I promised you. Let me go back to here and pop this into the chat. Okay, this is a chunk of text too. Okay, I'm gonna add this for myself as well. And again, I'm gonna do some spacing just to break it up a little bit, because we're also going to put some more images in here. So as I mentioned before, a lot of what we do is we sort of introduce like a new skill and we repeat them. So now we definitely have had a lot of practice adding narrative text. So now what we'll do is we're going to add some more photos in here. So you'll see that the narrative is talking about the gas lamp quarter. So we're going to add a picture of the gas lamp quarter underneath this. And again, this is repeating that action, right? So what we want to do is add a photo, which we already know how to do. Our folder is already here. So let's find a photo of the gas lamp to insert in here. Let's scroll back up. Let's see. Okay, so that looks good. And we'll leave that narrative. And then there's our photo there. I'm gonna add a break here. And then we'll add another photo under here. So this narrative talks about the convention center, marina, the baseball stadium. So if we wanted to add another photo, we can do that. This one is of the trolley downtown. Whichever photo you want to choose is up to you. I'll just stick this one of the trolley in there. Why not? And then we'll add one more under this for Little Italy, and then we'll move on. I just want to show you that you can add obviously multiple. We'll find that one, and then we'll add these, and you'll see what we can do. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat again. What do you mean IP issues? Oh, no, yeah, so this folder is actually owned by Esri, so the maker of Story Maps and the other related apps that Esri owns. So this folder is hosted in Flickr, but it's for the purpose of these demos. So if you were to want to do your own story map, you would want to obviously have your own photos of whatever subject matter you're trying to create the story map with. But you can also use photos from the from like a URL. So if there's a photo online, and it will give the credit to where it's coming from. So you don't necessarily need to own the photos, but they just need to be, if you're going to link out to them, it will link out to the source URL, if that makes sense. Most of the times, folks will own their own photos, or they have taken them in the field, and then you can put them obviously in a folder, either like Flickr if you wanted to do that for sharing purposes, or if they're just on your desktop. Okay, so now you'll see that under this section, we've got multiple photos, right? So here we are talking about downtown San Diego. At the very beginning, we start with this like nice overview. And as you scroll through, it zooms in on a map of San Diego. And then once we scroll down to that downtown section, the map zooms further and continues the narrative about downtown San Diego. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some of those pop-ups. And I see I have another question in the chat. Oh, thanks, Laura.
I have a question, Melissa.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if students were doing this as a group project, is one, I'm assuming they can share the same account or like access the same account and build on this together. And two,
yeah. So people,
would it be advisable to like that they have kind of the frame set, you know, like build out each section and then go back and add in the content? Because it seems like everything is building on top of what came before it.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, you can do it a few ways. So because Story Maps is free and you don't have to access it through your two-lane credentials in the GIS portal, you can create like a public account. So if you created a public account, and Dr. Kelly did this with her class where she created an account for each class, and then they signed in and worked in those accounts on the story map together. So you could do it that way if you were assigning it as a group, or you could share it with others. If you were like the owner of the map, you could share it and then have other collaborators. And then to answer your second question, can you repeat your second question? I'm sorry.
I'm just in terms of like how multiple people would contribute, it seems like a lot of this sequentially builds on each other or on itself. And so like, would you advise that they build out the structure first and go back and add content, or, you know, are there tips for that?
Yeah, I would. And some people have a lot of feelings on how you should create a story map. What I always suggest is to write the narrative first, just like you would if you were like doing a research paper, right? So like write the narrative first and have that ready. And then think about, you know, the photos that would enhance that narrative. Because it is storytelling at the very core. So once you get your narrative down, then you can think about what would enhance that, right? So if you've been collecting photos, like in the case of Dr. Kelly's class, when they were going and actually taking photos of the tombs, they inserted those, or if it's a YouTube video, or maybe a audio recording of like an interview and those types of things, just whatever is going to enhance that narrative. So if in your narrative you're talking about a specific person, and I'll show you in a second like how you can do like a pop-up or like a link out to like either a photo, a website, or like a pin on the map that will give you more information. And then at that point, that's when you're really engaging with that like interactivity of story maps as well. So it's kind of a combination, but I always suggest that students start with the story and then add on and include those things that are just going to make the story better, if that makes sense. I'm going to look at the chat before. Yeah, Vicki just included in the chat a link to a COVID related story. And the content, I mean, you can create these on just about anything. I know that this demo seems a little bit basic, but it's really about getting familiar with how to use it. And then you can, you know, put anything into this. So it's really, this is to get you familiar with the interface and how to sort of step through this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to edit this section for downtown San Diego. And this is when we're going to sort of get into the pins and pop out information. All right. So you can see that you can toggle between editing the main stage content and the side panel content. And we're gonna do the side panel content first. Oh, actually, I lied to you. Let's go back. We're gonna zoom in even further on the map. We'll do the custom configuration here. And we're gonna zoom into the gas lamp quarter. We're gonna save the map location here, and then we're gonna go over to the side panel content, and we're gonna scroll down to where we talk about the gas lamp quarter. And if you highlight that text, you can, then the story, anytime you highlight in the narrative, a new set of options will pop up, and those are called story actions, right? So this will allow you to create links in your narrative that help you tell your story. A story action can link to another section or change the main stage. Like it says here, for example, you can configure an action to move the map to another location. You can change the image video map or link to a web page. So we're going to change the main stage content. And then we're gonna do the pop-up. We'll do the custom configuration. Whoops. Yeah, okay. So then what will happen as we scroll through, and if we click on the now like sort of hyperlinked text that says gas lamp quarter, the pop-out will display that text. All right. And I'm gonna save this now, and I'm gonna hit save again. So now if we scroll through, whoops. Scroll through, and then we have our gas lamp quarter here. So then it pops up with that information. So that's sort of how you can add additional information as you scroll through and have it change. And like I said, you could have changed that. Like when you highlight the text, it could be a number of things. The map that Esri created had various points of interest on here. And again, you can create a map and you can create pins and points of interest and then use that in your story map. And there again, I do also encourage though to use the gallery, because there are, when you think about like if you're just looking at a city like New Orleans for example, those maps already exist, and those are open. When we talk about open source, those are open for you to use. So keep that in mind. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel, but you are able to also create maps. Oh, thank you. So I hope this was relatively, and then also as a reminder to continue to save throughout, so you can save all of your work and revisit it if you'd like to. And then again, up here, you can share if you wanted to share to your organization. In this case, if you were signed in with your Tulane credentials, you could share it to the content that sort of is in Tulane's portal. You can make it viewable to the public. You can share it on social media and the like. and my internet's being very slow, as you can see. So, but I mean, there are endless possibilities with this. So like I said, this was used, and it's been used frequently. I know there's been other faculty on campus that have used mapping in their classrooms before. I've worked with Chris Oliver before on some mapping things, and have done some workshops for his students. I've worked with folks in the architecture preservation program. I've worked with Dr. Kelly this semester. So it's been a really great tool in the classroom. Sorry that then this is why I have my video off. But this is just giving you the option for your, to share the story. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen since it's being sad. But does anybody have any additional questions? I think we have a little bit more time. Correct me if I'm wrong. For any questions that we have. If not, I'm definitely available by email. I'm happy to do workshops for your classes specifically. I should probably turn my camera back on now that I'm not also doing the story maps thing. So I'm open. If you have a service line course or any course that you would like to incorporate story maps into, and you're not like necessarily sure on how you want to do that, I'm open to like chat with you about that. And if it's not story maps, but you might be interested in just mapping and like spatial analysis, we can chat about that as well. Now that we do have access, I know story maps is one of the free products of the Esri suite, but now that we have other products, it does really open the doors for what we're able to do as a campus with mapping. I've used GIS for on and off for about 10 years. I've told Dr. Kelly this though, I don't consider myself an expert in any way, shape or form, but the Esri community runs really deep. So if I don't have an answer immediately, or if I don't know it, I can get it for you. And I had to do that a few times for Dr. Kelly. So it's with anything that you sort of learn and pick up, like programming or coding or anything like that, you rely heavily on the communities that support that. And this is no different, but it is something that you can, with a couple weeks, pick up and implement and put into your class. And it's doable within a semester. So
I actually have a question. It seems like my understanding of story maps is it's very narrative.
yeah.
Is there a way to make it non-narrative so that I can actually have like 50 points on a map and you can actually go wherever you want in whatever order?
Yeah, so it's really, you can put as much or as little narration as you want. And it does, like you said, typically it is more narrative, but if you wanted to just have a cloud-based story map that was map heavy, and you had your map as like your main stage content, and as you scrolled through, it changed to either like if you had a pin or an address, or however you wanted to identify those spots, and then had either a pop out or if you had like a small narrative and you wanted to link to a photo or a website or something else, you could do that too. You don't have to fill it with narrative. Some of them are all narration and links out to other things.
Right. I mean, I guess I'm seeing anything that's like I scroll and it takes me through a journey as narrative. I mean, having a map that anyone can choose any order to look at things in.
I think you're like, because I also had that question, like a self-guided tour, like where you can move around to different spaces.
Yeah, so there's two Story Maps platforms. There's Story Maps Classics, which is what we worked in today. And then there's like what they're calling just Story Maps. It's the new Story Maps. So what they've done with the new Story Maps is they have pulled out, and when we started the workshop, you could see all of the different sort of themes or builds that you could choose from, right? There's the Cascade, there's the like walking tour, there's the map journal and all these things. The new Story Maps has sort of like gotten rid of all of that. And now it's a little bit more, or I shouldn't say, it's a lot more flexible. So you could have just that map and work through it as it, I guess like when you, I guess we'll say scrolling, but it's not necessarily scrolling, but it's just moving to different points on the map.
But would that be in an order that is predetermined?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm asking if there's a way to do it in not a predetermined order.
So if you just clicked on the point and it jumped you to, yeah, so and that's what makes the map like interactive. So it's either you can, if the answer is yes.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that this is like the right platform / avenue for me to go down
A rabbit hole. Yeah.
You know, you don't need to tell me exactly how to do it. I just need to know that you can.
Yeah. And I haven't, and I've talked to Dr. Kelly about this because the new Story Maps, again, is new. So I haven't transitioned my workshop over to the new one yet because I'm still gaining more familiarity with it, right? Which takes time, as we all know, when we learn something new. It's like you also have to carve out that space and learn that thing. But I do still really like classic Story Maps for tutorials and demos because it is a lot more structured, and that's helpful when, for me anyways, when I'm teaching something new. It's like if it's contained within a structure, it seems to be a little less chaotic, but the functionality is there, and you can do a lot. So yeah.
I wanted to
more.
Oh, sorry, Melissa. So Dr. Kelly has joined us. She's coming from class, so thank you for rushing over after your class, Laura. And like Melissa had mentioned, she used Story Maps for 2 of her service learning classes this current semester. So I know we're kind of at time, but if anybody wanted to stay for another minute to hear a minute about what that was like for you, Laura.
Yeah, I'll just make it quick. And also, if you want to reach out to me directly, it's my email is kellyld, or if you put Laura Kelly in, it's with an EY because there is a Laura Kelly on campus that's LY. So, but I'm happy to answer anything. So I used it in 3 different ways. I used it for 2 service learning classes, one that's Indian tribes on the Bayou, and another one where we worked with St. Patrick's cemeteries here in the city. And then also I used it as a class project for a history class. And it was great and exciting, and there were different uses and different things that I learned along the way. So one of the things I did is I created a class account, and everybody had to use the class account. So we didn't go through Tulane, we didn't do that. And what it allowed me to do was like oversee the projects as they were going along. And because it tags like how much they're working on it, what they're doing. It also allowed me to comment directly on the projects, which I found really useful. In terms, we used it, again, it's a history class, so we used it in a variety of different ways, both with historic material, with maps, with newspaper images, and as Melissa's thing shows, you can, when you have a highlighted text, you can really put anything in that. And so on the service learning one with St. Patrick's Cemetery, one of the students marked where all of the World War II veterans' graves were located, because this was like kind of creating like a tour guide manual. So we used drone photos where they circled them, and then when you could click on an image, you saw their draft card. And so it really kind of personalized the image that was in there. The Indian tribes on the bayou, one of the great things is that when you take pictures and your geolocator is on, that automatically is linked up to it. So this is a long-term project with the tribe that I've worked with for the last 15 years. And we're going down the bayou and we're taking images. And so we're locating where they used to live up until the 1980s. And that's now covered with water. And before, trying to document that has been a real issue. And now, and especially with GIS training, which is, not easy to learn. So this allowed us, we're going down, we're taking pictures, and we're automatically being able to create these maps. And then this is helping in their federal recognition petition. And it's something the students can do, it's engaging, it benefits the tribe. And so that was a completely different real-time application use for this. And I think something like in environmental studies, it would be great when you want to mark spots, but also like in and around New Orleans, like taking it to that next level of locating an image of a place on the map where it is or where it used to be. Like Vicki, how there's been a lot about like where it used to be in New Orleans, no longer here kind of thing. And so it interacts in a way and it changes up. So it's not just like a PowerPoint, but it really kind of engages the person. And I found the students seem to really enjoy it. I've asked them to give me all the feedback on it, personal one. And because it involves so many different levels of thinking. It's not just a term paper, it's not just a PowerPoint, it's not just getting images, but it's having to do a lot of different things. And I gave them sort of free run in the history class about what they wanted to do. So the Indian tribes was more specific, but it's also something that can be built upon. So if you're doing multiple projects with one community partner, you can build upon that project. And that's what we'll be doing again next year with the Indian tribe. We'll be building upon this work for next year. So I just wanted to say that because I know we're out of time, and I'm happy to tell you like what I would do again and what I wouldn't do again in terms of like instructions to the students and what worked and kind of what didn't work, and like so nobody has to reinvent the wheel. But I did have a wide variety of subject matter, which was great. Like several of the students did it on epidemics, yellow fever epidemic, cholera epidemic. And I thought that was great. It allowed them to kind of process, I think, what's happened with COVID. And so they were thinking about how do you do a story map about an epidemic, not just talking about the disease, but who is it affecting, where it is affecting, what do you do with the bodies, where are they going? And, really kind of, I mean, it's practical stuff, but, so it got them thinking about it. Like I said, different than a normal kind of linear term paper. And I think processing information in a different way. And I would definitely use this again. I plan on using it again. I found it engaging and fun and not the kind of like, I'm really just engaging and fun and looking forward to reviewing them in deeper detail for their grading versus like grading another term paper. So
Laura, can I ask you, did your community partners, did they have access to the platform and did you train them to use it? Like they didn't need Tulane credentials to be able to log in?
No. So one of the things is that you can create a public account that's free. And so that's what I did, because that's actually, I was playing with this before Tulane bought it. So I went with the public account. I gave them all the information. And that was the other thing about the community partners. I wanted them to be able then to have full access to these. I had one student who used her Tulane ID and I haven't been able to access it. She has to give me public. It's been a pain in the neck. So I would say create that class account and then make them only use that class account. But that way they can do it, because I want the community partner to be able to use it, and it's going to be going on their websites and stuff like that. So it was, it was
Thank
just
you.
easy. It was a matter of login information. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I know we've kept you here a little later. Thank you so much for sticking through to the end. I'm grateful so much, Melissa, for demonstrating this and teaching us all how to walk through this, because I think, and I've gotten a lot of private messages too, I think this is going to be a really valuable tool for a lot of different projects and like across so many different disciplines. So I'm excited to see where it comes. I feel like, you know, maybe after another semester, we have all these different projects. We need like one 2-lane site to just show off all the work that has been created.
Yeah, that would be cool. I could do like a showcase. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I wanted to just say, that was one thing I wanted to say, is that it is really easy to use. I mean, I made the students do a test story, and then they found out pretty quickly where they hit snags and whatever they were hitting a snag. But it's super easy to use. It's it's friendly. It's easy to correct stuff. So in that respect, you don't need to do a lot of training at all. And the community partners have all loved it. What they see is the product too.
Great. Well, thank you again. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy not the end of the semester, but the break that follows.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.